place, New York City. And ironically enough, this is where I come to get some peace and self-care. Just some time to kind of wrap my mind around things, see family, go and sightsee, be a tourist, yes, in my birthplace. But it definitely gives me a time to just relax, relate, and release. Life is a continuous journey that comes along with bumpy roads. So it is so important that you take care of yourself and your mental health. My guest today, who is a licensed therapist, Kadian Peynado, speaks about that and how you can help yourself and your family when it comes to your mental health and self-care. Hi, Katie, and welcome to my Vision is Clear Experiences. How are you, girl?
I'm good. How are you?
I am wonderful. I'm so glad you're here. I am feeling the glasses. Let's
Thank
get
you.
into them glasses. I love, love, love it. Giving me the black and white with the little cap. I love it. Absolutely love it. Giving me all the
Thank
vibes.
you. Thank
Yes.
you. I'm trying to be like you, Elaine. See the
Oh,
cat thing going on.
girl, please. I mean, you stand on your own, and I love it. Love it. Oh, so I'm so glad you're here because we have a lot to talk about. And I always like to start off with a little bit of a, icebreaker before we kind of dig in and get all serious and have fun. What do you think? You
Sure.
down?
Yes.
Right. So it's just a quick little question. Now that we are out, and I put that in quotations because, we're still in this pandemic, right?
Right.
When we had the, I guess, permission to kind of go out and be out there, what was the first thing that you did or that you planned to do once you got to be released?
I think the first thing it did was a road trip to see my sister in Georgia.
Nice.
Like road trips are not. I don't like road trips. I'll be honest with you.
Oh.
Especially. But the idea after, being quarantined for so long, the road trip was so embraced by me. I was like happy to be on the road and doing something. So yeah, when we finally got a chance to be semi-free, went on a road trip.
Yes, it just gives you a different appreciation, right? For being out the house. It's like, oh, the trees, the air, the birds, just take it all in, right? And before you were like, I don't want to bother with that. Let's just get to where we're going.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I definitely hear you. It's a different appreciation. So if nothing else,
yes.
This pandemic has given us a different perspective of just appreciating the small things. So
yes.
That's awesome. So, girl, let's get into it. I mean, first of all, I wanted you on the show because, I got to have a little piece of your journey as you are to me, it's just a well known, just experienced and really great licensed professional therapist.
Thank you.
You have just so much intellect and information to share that I really want other people to be a part of, not just from the mental health standpoint, but just your journey, like how you got here and what it took for you to get here and the different, obstacles you had to combat to kind of get to where you are today. So I want you to just tell us a little bit about, who you are and your business epiphany.
Okay, great.
That name.
So thank you. So I've been in the field for probably going on 20 years, but therapy for the last 12, 13 years, like as a licensed professional. So the social service field, I was kind of drawn to it when I was in college, and I was working with kids who had developmental disabilities, and I was just like, oh, I kind of like this. So then I I was in college for undergrad for psych and psych rehab. I did not like psychology. It was boring. I hated every bit of it. I really did.
Really?
But yes, hated it. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was just ugh. It was not realistic to me, I think, at that
Mm.
time. I just didn't find the joy. But because I had a dual major, I had a psych rehab degree as well. So when I started the psych rehab classes, I was excited. I loved every bit of it. It was the severe mentally ill population. It was so human behaviors just got me really excited at that point. Um, and then after undergrad, I worked in a lot of different areas. I worked with the youth, I worked in drug treatment, I worked in um partial hospitals. I work in intensive outpatient. So, and my favorite, of course, was crisis. That's the longest I've worked in that
Mm.
area, working in the crisis department. And I liked it because you got to see a variety of different challenges with, whether we're talking about, and it has nothing to do with socioeconomic classes, everything to do with taking care of your mental health, right? So the wealthiest of wealthy with mental illness. Um, so I got to see a lot of different aspect of mental health. So I really liked being in crisis. So did that for a while, got my license, and then, worked in different areas. And the reality is that I knew from a young age I didn't want to work for people. I just like to
Ah.
be able to wake up when I wake up.
Now
That
let's
I just
stop there for 1 second because I love that you said as a young person you knew like you had to be your own boss. Was that something you
yes,
saw, or was that something that it was just in you?
it was just in me. I know that I didn't like a traditional clock, 9 to 5.
Mm.
I don't function that way. I don't function well that way. Um, I typically my brain wakes up around 11. I could be up at 8 o'clock in the morning, but my brain is
Yeah.
not up until about
Yeah.
11. Right?
Yeah.
So I know for me, I'm like, and I want to do my own thing. And the more I worked in social services, the more I realized why I want to do my own thing because, grant funded programs, we're worried about numbers, we're fudging paperwork, and we're not caring for people the way I would like to care for people. So as I work in the field, the more I learn, yep, I gotta figure out how to do this by myself. So once I got my license, I worked under a few people. And unfortunately, not everyone is as helpful to be like, oh, go this route, do this. That
Yeah.
it's
Mm.
rare. It's so
Yeah.
rare. Um, and that's why now, as a fully licensed clinician and my supervisory cert, I just guide people the best way I can because I know that what I had to go through, it was ridiculous. There was no one taking you under your wing, right? So I had to learn from this area here and work at this job and learn a little something there and always asking questions about the business end and the business end and the business end, just so I know, okay, how I'm going to put it together for myself, right? And then I end up 2016, I made the jump and just said, okay, I'm going to do it full time. How it's going to look, I don't know, but I'm going to do it. And
Good.
2016 is when I decided to fully open Epiphany. It was more done in home,
Mm.
and I did that for a year. And then I realized having in home alone, it was so the in home piece was I'm in New Jersey, so we do it through Perform Care. So the contracts are has expiration date on them, right? So it's either 3 months, 6 months, things like that. Once a family is stabilized, then you have to send them to outpatient.
Okay.
At that time, it was like, oh, I had to build a rapport with this kid. I finally got them to open up and we're working well together, but the expiration date is here and now I can't see them again. Right.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up having an outpatient, just so that I can have that continuum of care. So when I see guys in the community, I don't do as much in home anymore, but when I see them in the community, then at least when they're discharged from the in home, I can just refer them to myself in outpatient. That way I can continue to work with them. And I've been able to do that and I've worked with a lot of kids that I've seen off to college because
Mm.
of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mhm.
So I love the idea that while you were, I guess you say, in your process, in your journey, you knew that you wanted to help on a deeper level. That caring part, the compassion, the empathy, caring about what happens to the client after
Right.
the contract ends. Is that something that has always been a part of who you are? Like as a child, is if we ask your family members, did you know that Katie was going to be a licensed therapist? Did you know that you're, are you surprised that she's this? What do you think they would say?
They would definitely be saying, "No, I'm not surprised at all," because growing up, just that's just my personality. I am a nurturer by nature. I just do. I care for others, right? Definitely, of course, I had to learn boundaries and things like that, because people will drain you if you care too much, right?
Hey,
But you know, as I was growing up, yeah, pretty much always making sure everyone's okay, always the one that go out their way. I mean, even if I have to, I remember as a kid, if I had to make a paper card for your birthday, it had to be the best paper card I can make, right? It had to have
yeah,
all the colors, but it had to, I
yeah,
just like to see a smile on your face. So, and I'll personalize it to whatever favorite. If you like pineapple. You gonna get the best paper pineapple card
yeah,
I can make. And I
yeah,
just care how people feel. I just care about making sure that I don't know if I can in my power and not doing any harm to myself to make
yeah,
sure that I can make someone's day a little brighter and make sure that I can point them to the right places to get
mhm,
whatever help they can get.
yeah.
That brings me a lot of fulfillment.
So I like that you mentioned that you do acknowledge that you're a nurturer and that you would do 120% to make sure that person feels seen and feels supported. And you also mentioned boundaries. And
Yeah.
so, is that something that you had to implement early? Because, going on a journey where you are trying to really reach your goals and
Right.
make this vision that you have really come to fruition, there's a lot of obstacles and there might be people and things that might get in the way of that.
Right.
How were you able
Right.
to navigate through that, being such a open and kind and nurturing person that you are?
So honestly, some experience I had to learn the hard way, right? Um, because not everyone is as kind as is deserving of your kindness, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
So some experiences I did learn the hard way, but as I got older and being a little more, and honestly, let me even take that one step back. th- I had to stop at some point and say, why do I need to go above and beyond all the time? Right. So there was something that I needed to work on internally to understand that not everyone is deserving of your everything. Right.
right.
So boundaries didn't come naturally to me. I had to learn, like, oh, I don't need to be at everyone who invite me somewhere, I don't have to be there, right?
Mm.
Because I used to be the person who was like, "Oh, but then if I don't go, then they're gonna be sad that I didn't show up." No, they're not. They'll be fine. You'll be okay. Stay
Right.
home. You're tired, right? So I had to learn little things like that. I know that's a small example, just like little boundaries within myself before I
Yeah.
learned to put boundaries on others, right? So was it easy? No,
Yeah.
it wasn't easy. But as
Yeah.
the years went on, I've been able to do it in various areas with friendships, even with my child. I feel
Yeah.
like I still, they will suck you dry. They're kids. They
Yes.
don't, at a certain age, she's 12 and she's like, gimme, gimme, gimme. If I
Yeah.
don't teach her boundaries, she'll stay that way. So I've learned how to really just put boundaries in every aspect of my life.
Yeah. And that's awesome because there was this there was this wall decor that I saw in the store that said, practice what you post. And,
Mm,
I'm a follower of you, as you know. And so I know a
mm,
lot of the stuff that you post is stuff that speaks to boundaries, taking care of yourself, and all of
mm,
these things to help your mental health. And so it's very good to hear that you are practicing what you post, practicing what
Oh
you tell,
yeah.
because we are guilty of, here's the plan. Do what this to help you, and meanwhile we on the other end burning ourselves
Burn
out,
out.
doing the
Right.
most, doing the
Yeah.
opposite of what we are preaching. And so it is good
So
to
true.
know that you are, taking your own advice when it comes to that.
Right. I
Um,
think I know the pandemic is nothing that we all wanted, right?
right.
But I gotta say the pandemic helped me a lot to really practice what I post, right?
Yeah.
To slow down, to get in hobbies, to doing things that actually fulfill me and serves me. I wasn't doing that before the pandemic as much as I'm doing it now, you know.
Mm, mm,
So it really did help in that
mm.
sense.
So let me find out the pandemic. Let you take in all of the goodness, be present, and help you with your boundaries. I'm loving it.
Yes.
I am loving it. You mentioned earlier, you were interested. I don't know if, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. If you mentioned
Mhm.
why you went into mental health, is it just something that, again, you saw in your family, something that you just saw in your community? What was your drive for wanting to be in mental health? Because as a nurturer, there's different fields that you could have done, right?
Right,
But you're
right.
specifically in mental health. So what was it that drove you to want to be in mental health?
So the funniest, well, I don't know if it's funny or not, but all my life was drilled in my head that I'm going to be a doctor, right? My
Mm,
grandmother drilled it in my head. So if anybody asks you, "Oh, what are you going to be, Katie?" "Oh, I'm going to be a doctor."
mm,
All the way to like senior year. So senior in high school, we took biology as senior in high school. I went to a science high school. And we were in biology class, and I was sitting there dissecting the leaf, and
mm.
there were so many parts to the leaf. And I sat there and I was like, I don't want to remember all this. If I can't remember a leaf, I'm not going to remember the human body. So at
Yeah.
that point, I was like, so what am I going to do with my life? Because then I don't want to be a doctor anymore. So I was talking to a history teacher, and he was like, you know what? Kane has this program. It's a dual major. You could do psychology and psych rehab. All your friends seem to come to you for advice anyway. Why don't you try it out? I don't know anything about psychology. You know what I'm saying? Okay, whatever. I just go with the flow.
Right.
I applied. They accepted me in the program. I'm there. Still don't know what I'm doing with my life. It was the summer of after freshman year. I worked as a camp counselor, like a junior counselor, I think, at this camp for developmentally delayed children. And that's when I fell in love with the field of mental health. The kids, they were awesome. They had dual diagnosis. There was some developmental, but there was also mental health concerns.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love. I didn't like school, but I liked helping others in that area.
Yeah.
And about junior year is when I really fell in love. Like
Mm,
the classes I was taking, they were just awesome. Learning about the mind, learning how you can help others, learning how people can actually function well in the world if they just have the right treatment and the right team and the right support.
yeah.
And that's when I think I fell in love around junior years when I'm like, yes, this is what I want to do. This is
Wow,
where I
I
want to
love that. I love that. Junior year. Some people be like, "What, girl? You about to graduate? That's a year before." What do you mean? You're not. You don't know what you want to do. But I think that's such an amazing point because
do.
it
Hmm.
really doesn't matter what stage you are in your life
No.
when you're
Mm.
giving that passion, that vision, that thing that I believe God gives you. It can come
Hmm.
at a time where you're just like, really, Lord? Like
Right.
now is it's like, what are you talking about? Like we've been doing this all this time. Why don't we just
Right.
finish it? Right? But he's like, no, 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 that's not what you're supposed to be doing. So
Right.
stop and look over here. So I mean, I love that it seemed like your response to that was very like, okay, whatever, let's try it. A person like myself
Right.
would have been like, what? Oh no, let's this is then let's go here. yeah, because I can't. No, no, on panic mode. So I just love that you were just open to that. You're just so open to that. I think that's so refreshing.
And I think I needed to be open because that was my destiny, right? That's where I needed to be. And God was like, hey, listen to this man here. And
Yeah.
plus, I had no other options. So
Well, there's that.
it was already senior year in high school. I'm supposed to go to college. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. It's amazing, who God will put in your life to kind of help you to just figure it out, just to
Right.
be clear about what it is that you should do. So when you decided you wanted to go into mental health and you had this goal, you mentioned, I don't like school. I don't like it. I don't like to have to deal with this, that, and the next. Tell me what was motivating you to finish through. I mean, yes, you said this is what you want to do, but sometimes when we're on that journey, we're like, why are we doing this again? Like,
Right.
so
Right.
tell me what your why was that kept you pushing through in those times where you were just like, ugh, I can't.
So my mom always is I don't think I ever liked school growing up. Since preschool. I don't think I ever did. I don't think I ever did. But it was just instilled in me that you had to go, right?
Yeah,
You got to do well.
yeah.
Um, I'm grateful that school came naturally to me. So,
Mhm.
because I was a good student. So I went because I had to go. So even those days when I'm like, so by the time I got to college, it was like you have to go. You don't want to work for nobody. No one ever told you about entrepreneurship and the different areas you don't need college to be an
Right,
entrepreneur, right?
right,
So my only thing is that I don't want to work for people. I want to make a good living in this world. I got to go. So as much as I hate it, I got to sacrifice. And I used to
yeah.
tell myself this is a temporary sacrifice for a permanent change.
Mhm.
Temporary sacrifice for permanent change, just to
Yeah.
push myself through. And after I got my master's, I know I couldn't stop there. I needed the license. So I had to keep pushing. I had to keep pushing, whatever continue ed, whatever I needed to do until I was fully licensed. Now, once I learned that I can fully operate under fully licensed clinician and I didn't need a doctorate, I stopped because I said, I was
Yes.
like, oh, I don't have to go back to school. Okay.
Ding, I'm done. Yes.
So I laugh about it. I'm like, oh, maybe when I'm like ready to retire, I go back for my doctorate. But at this point,
Yeah. I'm
man,
good. Yeah. I definitely hear you on that. Because I don't know, it's almost like a progression. People just expect that, you get your bachelor's, you do your master's, then you get your doctorate. And I know that's kind of old school thinking, right?
right,
When you feel like you can only get to a certain level based on, what letters you got behind your name or in front of your name.
right,
And
right,
so it's really good to, where we are right now, where
hmm
you can just get your at least your masters and
right,
you're making big moves, you know what I mean? And
right,
half the time it's based off of your experience and the things that you've done in the community, or stuff like that, that kind of like really helps people to take you seriously into
right,
in this field, right? So
right,
thank God for that, because
right.
what stood out to me when you spoke about what your grandmother would tell you, that you are going to be a doctor. And I think with a lot of our families, and when I say our families, West Indian, African, you know,
hmm
black and brown cultures, we have that. I don't even say it's a conversation. It's like, this is what you're doing. You're
Right,
either going to be a
right.
doctor, a lawyer,
hmm
somebody that's of what they perceive as a top.
Prestige, what they think, right?
Yes,
hmm
yes. And
hmm
it's like, to say you're gonna do, I'm gonna be an artist, or I'm gonna be a therapist. Like, why? Like, why are
Right.
you doing
Right.
that when you
You're
know
not
that
gonna make
doesn't
any
have
money.
doesn't make
Right.
money, right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't make money like the way you go make when you go ahead and get that law degree or that
Right.
that medical degree, right? And so I think I it's awesome that although that was something that was told to you that this is what you're going to do, that you still felt like I want to move forward with my decision. Was your family supportive of that when you were going through that, the different
Yeah,
changes?
definitely. I mean, growing up, it was one grandma. She was really like my foster grandma, but I was
Mm-hmm.
very close to her. By the time I was in college, she already passed away, so I didn't feel like my senior year in high, yeah, I think she passed away when I was in high school. So I
Yeah.
didn't necessarily feel like I needed to be a doctor for her, right? So there was no one else telling me in my family, you got to do this, you got to do that. I think I held on to it because I was just close to her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when she was no longer with us on this earth, it was like, I don't necessarily have to hold on to this, you know?
Mm,
And plus,
yeah.
I knew I would have hated it. I would have hated every bit of it. And I
Yes. Yeah.
don't believe in doing things I hate.
Preach that, okay? Because the statement you said was that you didn't have to keep doing this for her, and that's
Right.
what it is, right? We feel like we have to
Mhm.
fulfill the dreams of our parents, our aunts, our grandmothers, our uncles,
Mhm.
whatever it is that they were not able to perhaps pursue. And so they
Right.
want you to go ahead and keep that moving. And when you don't do that, it's like, oh, Lord, what's she gonna do? She's not gonna be successful. All the things, all the
Right.
fears come,
Right.
and many times that can really derail us from staying on the path that we're supposed to be on. And so, at
Right.
times, it makes it difficult for us to really fulfill that vision, right? Because you have all of these obstacles. And so
Right.
I would assume that you had, some obstacles to come in your path as you were trying to pursue this vision of yours. How did you navigate that?
So I was really fortunate to have met decent people in my life, right? So I I do ask a lot of questions. So when I do come across something, I'm asking, I'm looking and I'm researching, and that's what I said earlier. Whoever I mentor or whoever I supervise, I try to give them these gems because
Yeah.
I wasn't given these gems, right? So I do ask a lot of questions. I do like my own research. Um, I I do a lot of networking and like, when you go for, because I had a lot of supervisory roles and coordinator roles and management roles when I work in like the other environment. So you go to different places, you go to different conferences. So I usually utilize that time to pick people brain,
Hmm.
um, and just really get a understanding of where I want to be and ask the folks who are there, how did they get there?
Yes.
So I overcome a lot of obstacles by asking a lot of questions and doing a lot of research and really stick around the folks who align with my vision, right? And make sure I stay in those areas so that they were able to teach me a thing or two.
Yes, I love, love, love that because people don't understand that it is so important to be able to have that support system and to surround yourself with the right people. Not just because
Mhm.
we're in the same profession does not mean that we're supposed to be homies. Like, that's
Right.
not what that
Right.
means. It
Right.
literally means that you have to pay attention to what direction
Mhm.
you want to go in and that you are in like you said, alignment with that person so that
Right.
everything could just make sense for you. And having that mentorship. And I love that you ask questions. Many times we're
Mhm.
afraid to do that. We're just afraid that we
Right.
don't be that person that asks many questions that might turn this person off. But if you don't ask, you're not going to know, right?
You're not gonna know.
You're
Exactly.
just not going to know. And with that point, uh, we don't do these things by ourselves. Like you
Mhm.
have to be able to have people to help you to
Right.
get to where you are. So doing that by yourself nonsense, that's cute, but it's not sustainable, right? You
It's
need
not
to,
realistic. It's just not
yeah,
realistic.
yeah. Yeah.
not realistic.
And so I love that that is something that you definitely was like, listen, I got to do this. That's encouragement for me. I'll tell you that right now. Uh, so, yeah. So, one of the things that I know, you're a mom, and, as you are an entrepreneur and doing your thing and doing it very successfully, I would love to know how is it that you are handling being a mom and entrepreneur and sticking to your core values that you've had, from the beginning. Because sometimes I think it can be a little difficult to uh, match our core values with our vision. And,
Right.
sometimes we forget that. And so tell us how you were able to manage that and if you were able to, if you had to change some.
Right. So as far as the core values, they're pretty much the same. But what I did have to change is the idea of being a super mom, the
Mm,
idea of trying to like it's not feasible to have this balanced life that I want to try to achieve and think I'm going to do everything,
yeah.
right? So most of my energy focused on the things I could control, right? So if I have to outsource some of my motherly duties, I outsource it. If I have to be okay with not doing something around the house so I can spend extra time with my daughter, I do that, right?
Mhm.
So I snatch the time where I can and I put priorities, right? So what's most important to me? Is it more important for me to do laundry or is it more important for me to do an art project with my child? I'm
Mm.
going for the art project, right? Because it gives me a balance. It makes me feel good. The laundry ain't going nowhere. Literally, I'm going to drop it off at the laundromat and come back and it's going to be folded. Okay. Like I'm not going to like certain things I just learned that I don't need to do everything and I can
Yeah,
outsource certain things. It took me a little while to get there, I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
But once I figured that part out, like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay. I think I used to be a little too hard on myself. I didn't give myself a lot of grace. Because I
mhm,
thought, in every single area had to get 100%.
yeah,
No, you only get a little bit. Yeah, you can't do that. So, and like I said before, with the pandemic happening, I'm able to pour a little more into me. That means I'm able to give a little more back, right?
yeah,
So I'm taking better care of my hobbies. I'm protecting my time for myself. Um, yeah, I'm just doing more things for me to feel good about me. And then in turn, I'm able to provide a little more for others. So
yeah,
being able to kind of like prioritize, be okay when things don't get done,
yeah.
if it's not that important,
Mm.
it allows me to just stay focused on my core values with my clients and being a present mom with my
Yeah,
daughter.
that's awesome. So I'm all about vision boards and all about visioning, all, as you know. And
Yeah.
so I am just curious to know, is that something that you have had to do, or is there a motivational tool or visual tool that you use to kind of help you, stay focused, stay goal oriented through this journey of not just being an entrepreneur, but, being a mom and other
Right.
aspects that, go on with your life? What is something that you're using or have used?
So, well, I won't say I do a vision board because I don't actually get the pictures and right,
Hmm.
but I do write a lot. I write, I plan, and I plan in sections, right? So I'm like, okay, for business, this is the plan. This is what it needs to look like by the end of the year. This is what needs to happen. With my daughter, this is where we're at. This is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna incorporate. These are things we need to work on as far as our relationship, whether it's even as far as our health. These are things we have to do. For
Yeah.
me, these are things I do. This is what I need to do for myself. This year, I'm excited. I started gardening last year. So this year, I'm
Oh,
like, I'm all over it this year. I'm planning it out. I know it's going to look like already.
yes, I love
I'm
that.
starting my seedlings. Like, I'm good.
Ooh,
like,
love that.
so
That's exciting.
I think I do more listing more than actual pictures or anything like that,
And
but
that's
definitely
a
plan
visual
it out.
tool, right? That's a
Right.
visual tool.
Mm-hmm.
That's what works for you, and I like that because I think people misunderstand the concept of vision board. You know what
Right.
it is, what we know it to be is pictures and things, but
Yeah.
it can be words, it can be writing a list, anything that you can visually see that's going to
Right.
motivate you, that's going to remind you. It to me is your vision board, is your
Right.
visioning. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
so I think it's important that people have that,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the fact you said you wrote it down. Is journaling something that you do?
Not on a regular basis, no.
Mhm.
But I do not that much. I
Mhm.
can't say I do, but I have moments of journaling. Let me put it that way. I have moments
Mhm.
of journaling.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
not necessary, but I do a lot of, well, maybe I do kind of journal. Well, let me think about that. I don't think I journal in a traditional way. Like I don't
Okay.
have one place that I go to write. I think I write everywhere.
Yes. And that's good too. You're writing it down and you know where
Yeah,
it is when you need it, right?
yeah,
That's all that matters.
yeah.
Yeah. That works. That works. I love that. Yeah, so I think it's important that people understand that, to be successful, there are steps, and the way people do it is going to be unique to them. But I think
Right,
like the fundamental ones is, being able to have your core values, be able to connect yourself with people in a support group, have that accountability, being clear about what it is that you want to do for your life,
right,
and really putting in the energy to make that happen. Having your visual tool or whatever it is, motivational tool that's going to help you to get to that level, because
right.
we all hit hard days, um,
Yeah,
and so I'm curious. I know that you get a lot of different clients in this time of the pandemic, where I'm sure your cup runneth over when it
yeah.
comes to the needs of people. How do you inspire them? How do you motivate them? How do you get them to just kind of get through their situations?
And I think for each client, of course, is different, right? So literally just meeting them where they're at, to be honest with you, seeing what, they're, because some client could be a little, do a little more, have a little more energy based on their diagnosis, have a little more motivation, and
Yeah,
some just don't. So wherever, meeting them where they're at and try to influence them or encourage them in that space,
yeah,
opposed to like giving them something that's like far fetched for that. It could be easy for me, but it could be far fetched for them. So I think more than anything else, just meeting them where they're at and encouraging them with whatever they need in that moment. I think
yeah,
that's how, just to kind of push through. And then as time go on, if they could do a little more, I give them a little more. I just have to meet them where they're at. So each client is different, right? Each person is different in that sense.
yeah. And that's very I think it's very comforting to hear, because a lot of times, our people, our black and brown people, we don't always feel like we need to have therapy or we need to get help,
Hmm.
to do that check in with our mind, our mental wellness. We don't put
Right.
that as priority. And I think it's because we think maybe it's one note and it only looks this way. And
Hmm.
you're going to be all right. You don't need that. That's not going to help me. And so, with your point of saying that it's unique, this
Hmm.
plan or this walk that we're doing together is going to be unique to you, and it's going to help you, and you'll recognize that. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that that's interesting. And do you find that you come across that problem? With our black and brown people, just being able to encourage them to take their mental wellness seriously. How do you help them to squash that stigma that it's not necessary?
So it's really difficult sometimes, right? Because all right, I'll have clients that reach out and like, yeah, I need help. They finally make that step, and to me, that's like the best step ever because it sometimes takes weeks to make that step, right? Or some people months. So they make that step. So I try to keep them as engaged as possible. And maybe a few sessions will go by and they're not ready. They're just not ready. So I don't hear from them again. I get ghosted. They're never making another appointment. And I leave them. I let them be.
Yeah.
Then a couple weeks later or so, or maybe even a month or so, then whatever seed I planted worked, right? Because then I might get a call a few months later, like, hey, remember me? You know what? You were right. Let me connect. Could we meet for a little bit? And at that moment, when they come back, not everybody, but when they do come back, I'm able to use that as a teaching moment. Like, okay, you see why we need this, this, and this. You see why this is important. You see why you got to take care of yourself. You see why your mental health is top priority. Because not everyone is easily convinced. But sometimes after a few sessions, they're like, you know what, this was good. I like this. And some people disappear and come back. And some just don't.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I mean by meeting them where they're at as well, because you can't convince someone. You got to want therapy. You got to, it's a work, it's a process. So you got to participate in it. So it's hard to convince, but I just do my best to show why it's important.
Yeah. And I love that you said that because your book, The Truth About Psychotherapy, I just love it's a quick understanding to therapeutic process because a lot of people don't understand the process.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
y'all, this book breaks it all the way down. I'm telling you, you need to get it because it's not that is like over your head and you just
No,
don't understand it. It breaks it down. It's simple. It's very
very
simple.
simple.
We try to complicate things and we think it's
Mm-hmm.
this big hodgepodge and not with this book, honey. It breaks it down for you. And
It does.
I love that you simplified it so that, people who are not in this field can say, oh, okay, I want to give this a chance just based off of this. So tell me what made you write this book here, which I love, by the way. Y'all might get it.
Thank you. So the crazy part about it is that, I love the field of therapy. I love counseling. I love everything about it. And I know for me, it's like, okay, what if you're willing to put in the work, we can get it done, right? We can get to that place. But I didn't understand that most clients, why they weren't coming back or why they would want to break. Until one day, one of my clients, she was a younger client, she's like, you know what? I thought when I came to therapy, it was just going to be, I talk to somebody and I'll be fine. She's like, but this is a lot of work. And then that's when I realized, like, oh, people don't understand the work part of therapy. Like, you don't just show up and have a conversation and it's work. So that particular client is when I'm like, okay, maybe people just don't know what therapy's about. We throw the therapy word around a lot, but they might not even get it.
Yes.
So I said, let me break it down as simple as possible because then I also work with children. I work with all age groups, right? So that someone could actually look at it, even an 8-year-old could read it and understand that this is the process of therapy. This is what happened. You're not cured. There's no cure,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You put the work in and
Yeah.
it's going to hurt. You gotta understand that you're going to be working. It's a working process, right?
Yeah.
And I even make shirts. I don't know if you can see this one. It
Yes,
says
please show
embrace the
us.
therapy. Says embrace the therapeutic process because in
Yes.
order for it to work, you got to embrace it. You got to
Yeah.
be a part of it. You got to be there. So that was the reason. Like I finally realized that people didn't really understand what therapy is because they really thought if I just go, I talk to someone, it should be fixed, and they don't understand the work piece that goes in. So the book just really is just a quick guide, like it says, this is what happens, this is what you need to look for, this is how you go about it, this is what you do, there's work involved, but you'll be all right.
Yes, and I love that. It breaks it down just like that, y'all.
Right.
Um, so as we come to a close, which of course, I can keep going all day, but I guess we have to, bring it down to an end. What is or what are some gems or something that you would tell somebody about their journey? What would you like them to have learned from your journey?
So, one of the things more than anything else is, and I know this might sound a little cliche, is I just never give up, right? Just keep pushing through. Like, you're never, even if you hit a hurdle, because I won't say a wall or fail, it's just a hurdle, something to get over. Even if you hit it, remember you're not starting from scratch, right?
Mm,
You're literally starting with experience. So you hit a hurdle, don't quit. Just say, okay, this is what this looks like. All right, how am I going to figure it out? You don't even have to go completely back to the drawing board because you already have some experience under your belt when you got to that hurdle. So keep pushing through. If you have a goal, don't stop till you get there. I don't care how long it takes you. I don't care, how many people tell you to stop, to quit. Don't ever give up on yourself. And that's more important than anything else. I don't care how many people give up on you. You don't give up on yourself, right? And just never stop. Understand your journey, learn from your journey, and understand that your journey is your experience. So learn from every single experience because it's going to pay off at the end. But you
yes.
can't stop until you hit that goal.
Yes. Well, y'all heard it. You heard it. Do not stop. Got to keep pushing because I mean, at the end of the road, there is that light, and they say you have to work hard for what you really want, and so.
Mhm.
Katie, and thank you so much for
Oh, thank
sharing
you for
your
having me.
your journey, your experience, and I know that people are going to just really relate to it and probably want to like keep in touch with you so they can get some of them t-shirts. And let me just tell you about I got a t-shirt that said normalized therapy and I
Yeah.
love it. I wear that all over. I love it. So please tell the good people how they can keep in touch with you.
Well, my website is www.kadianpeynado.com. Um, Instagram, same name, and so as well as Facebook. So they're all Kadian Peynado. I'm just
Okay.
Kadian Peynado everywhere.
Heard it. Don't miss out. Until you get something good. So can't say, oh, there's no good therapist out there. I'm giving you one right here. So look her up and get your life. Okay. Katie, thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
This is so
Oh,
good.
you're welcome.
Awesome. I appreciate
Thank
you. I
you.
can't wait
You're
to
welcome.
do more stuff with you.
Oh, great. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
We talked about vision, we talked about mental health, and overall self care. So the question is, what are you going to do? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with everyone you know. I'll see you next time on My Vision's Clear Experiences. Bye.